Welcome back to Roll to Hit Gaming's 2019 50 Favorite Games.
Today we're going through number 20 through 11.
We've told you the best, now the best of the best. For Roll to Hit Gaming, I'm Chip.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Lucas. And as usual, I'll go ahead and get us started. This one was mentioned earlier by Chip. My number 20 is 1775 Rebellion from Academy Games. This was the first one of their games I was introduced to a couple years ago, and I loved it from the very first turn of the very first play that I had of it. I really enjoy the movement of your troops around the board, but most specifically about this, I enjoy the teams aspect, which is something I don't typically enjoy in a game, but it just works in these games. I like that I have my set of cards, my teammate has his set of cards. We're working together to try to overcome our enemies. And then, the game's going to come to a conclusion once all four factions have signed the treaty, right? And that's one of the cards that eventually you're going to have to play, sometimes whether you want to or not. I think it's a clever way to end that one, and I enjoy the whole experience. I would put this in the light war game category, and that's about where I sit in that arena, so I really enjoy 1775 Rebellion.
It's a really good game. All of Academies are. It doesn't allow more than the 2 to the 4 players. That's why I like the other one better, because it allows for a higher player count, but it's still a great game. And
I never played a war game that movement was based on card play, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are others out there in the field, but I'd never played one, and it was a really interesting dynamic to manage those cards and think your strategy through that way. As opposed to, I guess, we came kind of from the tabletop wargaming, your Warhammers, your 40K, and all that. And so, to us, movement was just back and forth turns, right? So, at some point, I need to get these guys over here and move them and attack.
Right.
But in this game, you have a constraint because you're going through a hand of cards saying, okay, well, I can move 3 armies, 2 spaces with this card. Do I want to do that now, or do I want to wait to some other point? That's a really neat mechanic if you haven't experienced it before. Yep, great game.
So for my number 20, it actually stayed the same from last year's list. I've had a lot of change in this particular 11 through 20, but this one, it held its own, and that is Fleet. Fleet's a little card game where you're going and you're getting licenses to go out fishing in the Great Atlantic, be it for tuna, for shrimp, for crabs, or lobster. It's just a really different, neat little theme that I'd never seen before and really wanted to try, and I loved it. And that's Fleet.
I actually bought this game for y'all's anniversary a few years back, selfishly because I wanted to play it, and I still haven't been able to. So need to get that to the table. My number 20 is going to be Mythic Battles Pantheon.
Yeah.
Now, for you guys, give you all a little backstory here. Lucas and I guess you could call us Kickstarter addicts. And we'll go back and forth daily.
I don't judge you.
No, I'm not judging you either. But, we need acknowledgement is the first step, right? But, multiple times a day we're going back and forth. Did you see this campaign? Are you going to back this? What do you think about this? And Jolene doesn't really say a lot of stuff, but every once in a while, the foot gets laid down and she just tells Lucas, back this. And that's what happened with Mythic Battles Pantheon. She came in and said, I want this, do it. And like any good husband, he did. And so we got this thing, and it's like, this huge boxes of miniatures and games and boards, and then they sent another shipment of more miniatures and games and boards, and it's just stacked to the ceiling. It's a board-based tactical miniature game. But what I really find interesting about it, the gameplay is great. I like it. You're using cards to trigger actions or activations of your troops and things like that, all in an effort to gain and absorb these little crystals that give your gods powers, and then you win the game. But what I find really cool is there's a sort of a pre-game session where you're drafting your force, right? So you lay out all the gods, you lay out all the human heroes, you lay out all the monsters, and then you set a point value and go back and forth drafting from those categories to build your unit that you're going to build your battle force that you're going to take to the table and to the board and play. And I just thought that was really, really cool because everybody has all kinds of different powers and mixing and matching, So from a replayability standpoint, this is like huge, right? Because you'll get there and you go, oh well, I put these guys together, but next time, man, if I could change out these guys and the powers would be completely different, the play would be completely different. So that's a really neat segment for this game, Mythic Battles Pantheon.
Absolutely. Just picking out your troop of characters, that is so cool. Another really nifty thing is that there's tons of boards, right? Because you have the Hera expansion, the Poseidon expansion. So we got all of that together. So there's tons of different boards. There are tons of different missions, different little campaign settings. So you'll never play the same game twice. Yeah. That is an awesome game. Yeah.
And they've got, I guess this year we're going to see another Kickstarter for Mythic Battles Ragnarok, which will bring in the Norse gods. And I'm still holding out for Egyptian gods. I think that'd be pretty cool. So that's my number 20, and that wraps up our number 20s.
So at number 19, my pick is ExLibris. We've already mentioned this one. I believe this was on your list. But basically, you're trying to build the best library. Every single library has its own little special power. You're looking for a particular book type to put into your library. And your points are based on the best bookshelf you can make, the best collection of books that you can make. The theme on it is just awesome because the books themselves, if you actually read the cards, it says, like diseases for dwarves or, monster madnesses or whatever the case may be. So they took the theme of regular D&D fantasy and they just kind of crammed it all in there, and it's awesome. It's a little bitty worker placement game. It's a modular board, so you'll have a different setup every time. And you're just trying to lay out books, not only alphabetically, but also in numerical order. So it's a little puzzly too. Nice package. That's ExLibris.
I think what happened was I didn't log my play, so I think it didn't end up in my selection criteria because I really liked the game. And I mean, who can go wrong with ways to wash your witch?
That's true.
Yeah, it's neat because you have a stack of the new locations that come out every turn, so you're adding to and changing the worker placement spaces that are available as you go along. That's pretty cool. It keeps the game fresh as it moves along.
My number 19 is one that I would have thought, or maybe I suspect that I might have some crossover with Jolene. Because she's such a fan of the post-apocalyptic. This is Wasteland Express Delivery Service. Now, this one you have a modular board, and you're a team of post-apocalyptic scavengers moving around this board to either pick up and deliver stuff, or go on scavenger hunts and things like that. Hits a lot of high points for me. It's got a funky kind of miniatures. I like the post-apocalyptic setting. This one doesn't have a hex map. This one has an octahedral map. So that's
fancy.
Yeah, that's even one step above. So I really like it, and because it's modular like that, the layout can change, and so your games in between can be different. That's always a plus. But I just really enjoyed it. Wasteland Express Delivery.
With that one too, everyone has their own, special mold for their truck, right? But you can enhance your truck any way you want to. It can be, you can beef it up with armor and guns. You can give it to where it has more storage space, so you can haul more. So it's very sandboxy on how you get your points, like you said, with either deliveries or going out raiding or going up against the big NPC baddies that are out there. So really cool game.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be on our list or not. Obviously, I haven't seen it, but I think I liked it better than her. So it may not show up there. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. My number 19, we've already talked about earlier. And there's some shame because it was so low on whoever's list that already brought it up, but it's Blood Bowl from Games Workshop. This is, fantasy as in, dwarves and elves and such, football. And, it can kind of devolve into kill the man with the ball, but at its core, it's a good representative of American football because you have to score in order to win. So you can you can go crazy beating on your opponent as long as you want to. Eventually, you have to get the ball into the end zone to win the game. There are a ton of different teams. Each one of them works in their own way and have their own powers. But what's really interesting is the league play of this, because as you play, your players will gain experience. And with enough experience, they'll get level increases, and they can gain additional skills or mutations or get their stats raised so that they become better players all around. This is a great package, especially if you like the idea of the league play, where you play through a season or whatever, and your guys get better as you go along. So, number 19, Blood Bowl.
What's really cool, it's the one game where you can cheat, and as long as you don't get caught, it's all good.
And what really speaks to the goodness of this game is such a simple little game by Games Workshop, who makes these huge, grand board games and tabletop games. This simple little board game has generated such a following. There are international tournaments, international leagues to play Blood Bowl, and there are game stores around the country, around the world that have maybe 16, 18, up to 30 players run a season,
right.
and that goes year after year after year. There's a whole federation devoted to Blood Bowl that's just fan driven. So that's really cool, and I think it speaks to the longevity of this game.
And that's going to be our number 19s.
Well, I suppose I should have mentioned up until this point, it's been all new games, and I'm going to continue that streak. My number 18 is Seventh Continent. And this is a card-based exploration game. You find yourselves on the shore, and I don't want to spoil this because there are spoilers that could be given, but you find yourself on the shore of an undiscovered continent or a strange continent. And through gameplay, you're going to be putting out different cards as you explore north, south, east, and west that will reveal more parts of the island, more parts of the continent. And you are attempting to solve some mystery or break some curse that's been put upon you. And so, as I said, I don't want to spoil it, but as you explore around, you'll take actions, you'll discover things. You'll have to make choices of where to place camp, if you want to spend time to go hunting, if you want to spend time to craft items that might help you along the way. It's not. I think it's up to 4 players, maybe. I've played it solo up until this point, and really, really enjoyed it as a solo. But I think it will work well. I probably wouldn't go to 4 players. Maybe 3 would be a sweet spot, or even 2. But I really do enjoy it. And so if you like the idea of exploration, of kind of the survival theme, Seventh Continent is one that you should definitely check out.
This isn't one that I've had a chance to play yet, so I'll have to wait and see on that one.
I'll have to bring it over.
Yep, I haven't played it either. My number 18 is going to be one that was one of the very first videos we did on the channel several years ago, and that's Laurenza. And this one has stuck with me. At the time, and maybe still, it was one of the heavier games that I had played because there's a lot of planning and a lot of getting the right resources and getting the right buildings and all of that stuff that goes into it. But I find that puzzle incredibly fulfilling. Basically, you're the head of a household or whatever, and it's kind of got that standard Euro theme to it, right? You're commissioning art to improve the city of Laurenza, and you can either work in your own district, which you can gain points, or you can go out into the city and do works out there and gain points. And it's really neat because you can send a worker out and say, I'm going to do this statue or whatever in the city, but you don't have the resources to do that. Yeah. You just have to have them by the time you get to where he's going to execute that action, right? So there's, like I said, there's a depth in that planning because you're like, okay, I really want to do this, but I got to make sure that I get this, this, and this. Because if I get to him and I don't have what he needs to pull that off, then I get negative points. You get slapped around a little bit. I like the depth and the complexity of this one. We played a 4-player game, which probably went a little long. But, it still worked. And I never thought during that 4-player game, oh, my gosh, I've been here so long, right? So It really works for me. It's unfortunate that you don't see it around much because I think it's a really good game. And, I don't know if it's out of print. It certainly doesn't have the most attractive box cover. So on the shelf, it's not going to jump out at you. But if you get the chance, I think it's a really deep, fun Euro game. And if you hate dice whatsoever because it has one little dice in it you roll occasionally, there's an option to take that out for you. I would suggest you check it out, and that's Laurenza.
What's really cool is while you're building up your home district, worker placement space is kind of build up, but I'd have to pay you for it, but I could use a worker placement space that's on his home district, right? So it's kind of cool because you're almost like sharing each other's boards in order to build up the city, and the player aid for that sucker is awesome.
That's what I was going to say. This game sets a gold standard for player aid. Companies out there, if you want to know how to do it, do it. Because there is a lot of stuff. Each building has a unique cost associated with it in those materials, right? And there are a lot of buildings, a lot of variations in buildings that you can make. So you essentially need a menu, and that's what they give you in the player aid. And they're very well executed. I wouldn't mind seeing a reprint of this game. It's a really good game.
Well, my number 18 is one from GMT, and that is Welcome to Centreville. Welcome to Centreville is it's a town building game, but it goes more than just put a coffee shop here. It's more abstract than that. When you're building up your city, it's split into a park and then neighborhoods. And in order to do better things, you have to have education. So you can go to the campus and you can get education in engineering or just standard general school or mathematics. So you get education, and that's part of your victory points, is that set collection of education. You can build up the neighborhoods themselves, and that's another way to get victory points. It's almost a little Tetrisy, but if you have the majority in a certain neighborhood, you get those points. And then you have another section for the well-off people, and you're trying to build up a villa, and that gives you more victory points. And then you also have the city planner and the city council part of it, and you have to put influence with the city planner or with the media or whatever in order to gain votes, in order to get the things that you want to happen, to have that extra bonus special power thingy. So it was really cool. Yes, it's abstract. It's not your standard on a suburbia, but it's really thinky and puzzly, but it gives you every aspect of what I think of when I think of building a city: education, politics, building the neighborhoods themselves. Really cool package. And that's Welcome to Centreville.
Very cool. I think when I think of GMT, I automatically think war games, but this is one of kind of their outliers that's not a traditional war game. It looks interesting. It looks really interesting.
And that's our number 18s. For number 17, I've got Portal Games' post-apocalyptic engine builder, 51st State. It was one of the first card-based engine builders that I had played, at least that I recognized that as what I was doing, right? It's still, for me, maybe the gold standard of that, because I just enjoy the way you're putting your little settlement together, the way you interact with the other players, and the way you can get to a point where you take this action and it triggers this chain to go off. I really enjoy that. It's a race to 25 points. We talked about, you guys have had this on your lists, I think, and we also talked about Imperial Settlers, which is similar. But this one, for me, does a little better, and I think it's because of the art style. I think Imperial Settlers is a little cutesy for me, even though the theme is better, because I don't really care about the post-apocalyptic thing as much as you guys do. But this one seems cleaner and more grown up to me. I don't know a better way to say it. So, this one works better for my taste, and that's 51st State Master Set.
I really like this one too. I mean, you're building up your I don't know what you'd call it, your gang's hideout, basically, your territory. And, you're getting resources and you're trying to build that engine so that you're constantly pumping out what you need to get those points. And you have the ability to break a piece of your opponent's engine. If they're like speeding up ahead, you can raise a piece of their engine. Yes, you have to pay them for it and they get something back for it, but you slow them down. And it's kind of cool. You're not just heads down focused on your world. You kind of have to pop your head out to see what's going on with the rest of them or you'll get left behind.
Awesome game.
Well, for my number 17, this one's new to my list. Actually, I have a lot of new to the list for this particular group. I have like 7 of them. But for 17, another new to the list, Architects of the West Kingdom. This is one that I really, really enjoyed. It was cool because you're trying to build up the little cathedral at the end. You're getting helpers. You can even go into debt, and it's okay, because usually in the Euro games, if you fall behind, you go into debt. Then there's these huge penalties. Well, you take the penalty, and then you just don't have to pay taxes anymore. That's pretty cool because you're a thief. But it just seemed ingrained in theme, and I really enjoyed the worker placement aspect to where, if I put one person there, that's great. But if I can put 2 or 3 in the same area, then that makes it a really big pool. And so, awesome game. I can't wait for the next one that's about to come out. I can't remember what that one was called, but that's Architects of the West Kingdom.
Paladins of the West.
Paladins, yes.
Yeah, this game was cool. It's a more recent addition to our collection, and I really enjoyed the first play we played. Gives me a feeling of stuff like Stone Age, those type of games, with all the placement of stuff and then generating resources from that. But it's a really good implementation of that system.
Yep. I agree.
My number 17 is the last new one on this list. For me, it's going to be Empires of the Void 2. This is a Ryan Lockett sci-fi game. Story is that some hostile force came into our system and drove humans and everybody else out. And we've all come to this new system now, and we need to make alliances or conquer planets to build our empire up before this hostile force comes back. I guess they're on our tail or something and are going to attack us once more. We want to be prepared when they get here. So I would not call this a 4X per se, especially because you can't really eliminate or exterminate other players. You can have player interaction where you battle each other if you want, but defeating your opponent doesn't really destroy anything. It just
pushes them back.
Pushes them back a little bit. So, and that's fine. Our group is not super huge on player elimination, player conflict kind of stuff anyway. So, but we are a really big fan of Ryan Lockett, and this game is one of my favorites of his. Maybe it's because of the theme and kind of the gameplay, but I like these move around and kind of. It's not really exploration because you see everything on the board, but the combination of having to go out and raise your influence among different planets or just flat out conquer different planets, and you can combine those with the other players. So Jolene could control a planet militarily, but I could have the higher influence, and we're both gaining things from having that, right? So there's this kind of weird balance between all of that. Really neat game, Empires of the Void 2.
And what's really cool there is on your player board, you're not only trying to go out and conquer planets or have a symbiotic, relationship and alliance with them. You want to be able to put down colonies and factories in order to gain points. And you have this little neat tech tree that's on your home board that as you're gathering the resources and such, and you're pulling this piece away, it unlocks another thing that you can do. When you're traveling around the galaxy, there are hazards out there too. So you're building up your ships and you're carrying your armies with you, or you can do diplomacy, and it's really cool because you have the bigger, huge planets that give you more points, but they're harder to take, or a lot of little planets that are smaller, easier to take over or to influence, but you don't get as many points. So it is that Euro puzzle of how to get the biggest bang for your buck. Really nice.
Well, it's a little awkward because I haven't played it. They won't let me play, so I'll just roll the transition.
Okay, we're at 16, and here is my Games Workshop love. We're talking about Warhammer Underworlds Shadespire.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so this is the skirmish-based game, but it's not tabletop. You have a board, one or two little boards. Sure, it's boards. And you're building a deck in order to use those cards in order to attack the other person's gang. So the variety of gangs you can have, I mean, they've just come out with a Sylvaneth warband. They've got Goblin, they've got Chaos, they've got Skaven, they've got Undead. It's so cool because, again, like kind of with Blood Bowl, any style play you have, there's a gang for it, and the cards that they build for your particular clan or group, it fits that personality too. So it's very thematic, going in there and putting your warband against theirs. Very cool gladiatorial combat type game, and that is Shadespire.
Yeah, I love this game. It's it's an investment of time and energy and brain power to get into a Games Workshop full-blown game like Age of Sigmar or like 40K or something like that. You got to invest a lot of stuff in that. With Warhammer Underworlds, really, I mean, you could get deep into it, and you could become one of these Magic the Gathering kids who are like, seeing mathematical equations in front of their eyes and stuff. But you could also just pick up and play, right? So if you're a real casual group, and I like the Orcs and you like the Skaven, we could just go buy those two warbands. We don't have to worry about combining models and which one's powers are which. The warband is set. The only thing that really changes is that deck of cards, and if you don't want to get real technical about mixing and matching, you don't have to.
Nope.
You can just play with what's presented, which is really cool. This is a game Games Workshop is trying to dip a toe into the organized play arena, and I think it has a lot of potential because it is a really solid quick play game for Games Workshop.
Yepers.
Yeah, I had this on my list for consideration, but it didn't make it onto the 50. And I think I figured out why that is, because I do really enjoy it. I picked a gang to play or a team or whatever the hell they're called that just doesn't fit my play style.
You gotta find you
so
one.
I need to find a better group to play because the game is brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
My number 16. So now we're out of the new games. We're on to games that have been in years past. This one is Indiana Jones, the board game, also known as Eldritch Horror, because that's the feeling I get when I play it. Cthulhu, this is an adaptation of the Arkham Horror, H.P. Lovecraft world, but this is on a global scale where Arkham is more centered to that area. In this game, you're jet setting all around the globe to go on adventures, undertake expeditions, fight monsters, try to close gates, all in an effort to stop some cosmic being from coming and destroying the world or stripping you of your sanity. It just works for me. It is not, to me, it's not as complex as Arkham Horror. Arkham Horror, I have not played the very new edition of Arkham Horror, but the previous edition, it seemed to actually sort of grow as one of the great old ones itself, right? It started rather large and just got really big. And, our table is 4x6, I guess, with a little bit of change. A full-blown Arkham Horror could fill up the entire table. Eldritch, not so much. And it's because of conscious decisions that they made, right? You're not going to put every expansion in to Eldritch Horror.
Right.
You're going to pick one major expansion if you want to play with an expansion and go with that, right? And then all the little ones if you want, however you want to mix and match those.
Yep.
Which is, it just works. It's a better implementation. And so Elder Core comes out on top for me of that Cthulhu big board game offering.
And you still get the setting too. I mean, you'll still pull the cards to where it says, you're having this situation, choose A or B or whatever, and then there's a consequence to that. So you still get the feel of that horror Lovecraft genre. It's just not as bloated.
Yeah, this one was my number one the first time we did this list a few years ago. So I have a feeling we may talk about this one again. I'm going to move on. Mine for this pick is going to be the roll-to-hit favorite, Coldwater Crown.
Oh, yeah.
Chip had said, I think in the last video, that this was coming up, and here it is. I like everything about this game. We've covered it so many times on the channel. You can check out our videos on it. We've talked about it in a few of these lists before. Everything about this game works for me. You start off your turn, you put a worker on the board, you take an action, then you pull a worker off the board and take another action. And it's just that simple going through. You've got your tackle box, which is full of bait, and once you empty a section, you catch a fish. And there are a ton of little mini competitions all around the board, and you're trying to score the best in those, because based on how you perform in each one of those competitions, you'll add up a total of points, and whoever's got the most is the winner, right? So all of that works together really well. It's an incredibly fulfilling theme for me, because I'll be honest with you, I saw that someone had made a fishing board game, and I thought that was ridiculous. And, I bought it anyways, because I also bought Camp Grizzly, which was ridiculous. And man, Brian Suri nailed it.
Yeah.
This game is amazing. So even if you think, I don't know about that theme, really fulfilling game in this box. So I'd strongly suggest anybody who hasn't given it a try to check out Coldwater Crown.
And they also got an expansion where you go to the sea. It's one of those expansions just adds to content, but doesn't change the game in any way. It just gives you another place to go fish. Awesome expansion, awesome game.
As we've talked about before, the mechanic of your creel or your bait, your bait tableau, you're pulling different colored gems out of a bag at random, and so in 4 sections you have this mishmash of color. When you're placing those worker disc on the board, you're placing them in areas that allow you to discard all the reds, or in one area, or discard all the red, or discard a number of reds, or things like that. When one section gets depleted, you catch a fish from that area. That makes it feel almost like fishing, right? Because sometimes you get a really bad draw that is a lot of different colors, and so it's going to take you longer to catch that fish. Other times, you get really lucky and you only have a couple of colors, and you can knock that out, lickety split, and boom, you catch a fish right off the bat.
They're biting.
So, yeah, that part of it is really neat, and I cannot point to another game that has that. That is a really unique mechanic, and like Lucas said, even if the theme of fishing doesn't really appeal to you, it's worth giving it a shot just to experience the actual mechanics of the game, because they are so unique and so satisfying, really.
And those are our number 16s.
So at number 15, we continue my quest to find Civilization games that these guys will play with me. And along the way, I found a favorite of mine is the Golden Ages. This one adds a little bit of hidden map exploration to your Civilization building game. And I really like it. So you are moving around a map that begins hidden, and you start uncovering areas that actually start building continents on your board. And it's a free-for-all from there, right? So then your opponents know, okay, well, landmass is starting here. Certain resources are on that landmass, and if I'm interested, I'm going to start heading that way. And so I really like it. I kind of felt like you guys enjoyed it. You didn't give me the Through the Ages stink eyes. So, but it was a really neat game. There's I think 1, maybe 2 expansions for it. I don't think we even played with them, but just the core game is a really solid civilization builder as you're exploring a map.
For me, Golden Ages, it's it's not the 4 to 6 hour epic grind, but it's still that puzzly abstract Euro variation of a Civ builder. I really enjoyed it. It was one where, he was saying you build out the map, you're putting down tiles to build this map out. And it's really, I don't know, it's just something about it was just really cool, nifty, and quick, which was in its favor for me.
Yeah, I went out and bought the expansion, so I did like it.
Yeah.
Yep. My number 15 is not really a Civ builder, but it's just game based on civilization, and that's History of the World. This has long been our group's claimed favorite game. We get together every year and have a big event where we play this, and now the winner gets a trophy that came into being the year after I won it, so I never got to have the trophy in my possession, but I'll have to win it again so I can do that. We've talked about this one on the list before. You walk through the 7 epochs of time and you get a different civilization each time, and it really is kind of a souped up, more involved Risk, and it's just always worked. For me, I played it for the first time in high school, so I've literally been playing this game almost 30 years maybe, so I don't know what else I could say about it that we haven't already. My number 15 is History of the World.
And this being our New Year's, what do we call it?
My New Year's resolution is to win it.
To win it. It's our New Year's tradition to play this game. And this last time, though, we did get to play the new version of it. And so right now, the group is embroiled in this debate.
Yeah, y'all danced around it last
version.
time. I'm the one that didn't like the new version.
On which version is the better version?
I think it's the player powers that would kind of threw you off.
I didn't enjoy the player powers, and I'm willing to admit that, there could be some of that you're messing with my game thing. I do understand that, but I did not care for the new version.
Honestly, I can tell you, I love this game no matter what version I'm playing. I haven't decided which one exactly is my favorite, but I want to play the new version again, the way that the rules intended, not by the old rules, to see, which one comes out on top.
We used the variant for drafting the...
This game, Lucas hinted on, is kind of like a souped up Risk. You're going to run from the dawn of civilization, where Sumeria built up, to right before World War One. And so that's the range of civilizations that you're going to go through in epochs. But where it's differentiated from Risk is you're not set to a specific region of the map where you have to spread from. Each epoch, you're going to be given, or you're going to acquire a civilization that'll have a starting point, and you'll spread from there. But in the next epoch, you could very well have a completely different civilization on a different side of the board, and you're going to build from there. Now, whatever's left over from previous epochs, you still score upon. So you want to make good choices about laying them out and fortifying things and stuff like that, so that opponents can't just walk all over them. You will get extra points for that. But that little change is novel in this game, because it breaks the monotony of sometimes in Risk you just get locked into a position where you can defend, but you really can't spread.
Well, in Risk you can be eliminated.
Yeah, and in Risk you can get totally knocked out. In this game, if an opponent comes after you and knocks you completely off the board, you're still in the game. You're just not going to get bonus points the next turn for
you're building from scratch.
For those, you're building from scratch, but that doesn't ruin your game. It doesn't, or it doesn't doom you, right? Because of the thought processes they put in the way that scoring happens and the way that gameplay happens. You won't be eliminated just for being knocked out in one round. So you can keep up with the other players. It's a great game.
Yes, it is. Well, for my number 15, this one was actually number 3 on my previous year's list. Controversy. It has fallen, and I think the reason that it's fallen is because I can't get it to the table.
Plummeted.
It did. It plummeted 12, and that is Alien Artifacts. It's a game by Portal, and it's you're basically you're exploring, right? You're building up your ship, and you're gathering your resources to go and explore this planet, and you can choose at that point, like, do you want to use the special power given to you, or do you want to flip it and now it becomes game ending criteria to get you extra points at the end of the game? And it was just this really cool puzzle of knowing, when to trigger not using that special power and then, and build on your technology instead. So I really enjoy card games. And sometimes it's hard for me to find, like you have trouble with Civilization.
Mm-hmm.
I have trouble getting card games to the table. But this was one that I really, really enjoyed, and that was Alien Artifacts.
This one, it's kind of like the 51st State and the Imperial Settlers, if I remember correctly. But then, like, you have planets where when you acquire them, you have to make a choice, right? You can take them for a flood of resources, or you can flip them and have a end game scoring bonus of some type, right? So you got to make that choice as soon as you acquire it, because once you lay it down, it's
set.
Yeah, it's set. The choice is made. It was a neat game.
Anyway, those are our number 15s.
Back at number 14, and I have my Viking game of choice. It's Fantasy Vikings, and that's Champions of Midgard. This is going to be a pretty standard little worker placement game where you send your workers out to collect Viking warriors in the form of dice, and you use those warriors to fight off enemies threatening the village, the troll, and whatnot, trying to collect points based on defeating those monsters. Which the cards are different colors, so you're kind of doing a little set collection thing too to get bonus points. But really, for me, I think the fun part is, loading up my warriors, bringing some food, getting on a long boat, going, across the waters, braving the unknown, and trying to fight off the Kraken or the big mystical beasts. I really like that part of it, and I think that's why it works better for me than the more historically accurate Viking type games. I like the fun and adventure and, rawr of this one. So number 14, Champions of Midgard.
There is one little thing I love this game for everything that he just said and the whole worker placement aspect of it. The one little thing that's a little bit of a pain though is if you don't go every turn or at the end of every round, if you don't defeat the trolls or whatever,
somebody gets blamed.
Somebody gets blamed, right? So you take negative points in honor, right? And that's just so aggravating.
Well, it's not great in the 2-player game because you can kind of make sure the other person always gets blamed for it. So you need to play this
always
one
my fault, Chip. It's always my fault.
Well, I mean, he complains that we won't let him play Empires of the Void too, and I've been wanting to play this game for like years.
Yeah, I actually have this one on lockdown right now, waiting for the playmat to get here.
Nobody wants to bring it. I think I have a theory that it's because I ride you like a rodeo when it comes to Lords of Waterdeep. So you don't.
Oh, is that what we're claiming now? Oh, so it's delusion of the month.
If I had a gauntlet, I would right now.
Okay, so my number 14. It's so funny that you mentioned Lords of Waterdeep.
Okay.
Number 14 is my choice over Lords of Waterdeep, and that is Yedo. Yedo is almost like a Japanese version of Lords of Waterdeep. You're basically, it's worker placement. You're going out to these different locations, and you're trying to fulfill missions. It's not really quests, right? But you have these missions. And it has this little constable dude that goes around, and you don't want to get caught in the same region that the constable is, because then he'll pull you in for questioning. It's a little bit of a meaner version.
It is, yeah.
Not horribly mean, but this is a meaner
It's not horribly, but it is more directly interactive than Lords of Waterdeep.
It is. I mean, like, you had this one quest on me to assassinate one of my people, but
murdered that guy.
He did murder, but it takes a certain complex set of circumstances to get that done. And that's why I don't mind that version of Take That. If you have to work hard in order to pull that off, I can't be mad at you, right? But the game itself is beautiful. It has, you're going and getting influence with the geishas. You're going and building up your dojo, or your little home. You're building up your what you can do there. There's more to it than what Lords of Waterdeep can give me, so that's why I chose Yedo.
It's another game they're scared to bring to the table with me.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd get... Lords of Waterdeep is a better game than that one. But you talked about it being beautiful, and I do agree from a board perspective, but I seem to remember that this one had paper money. Is that right?
I don't recall having paper money. We will bring this to the table. I want you to see it. I want you to enjoy it.
Beat you like you owe me money. My number 14, why don't we just keep the war game theme going on? This is Jamie Stegmaier's war game called Scythe.
Yeah.
And this one, man, I think it was a big hit for the entire group. It is not your traditional war game. It's more worker placement, but there's conflict elements. I don't even want to call it a post-apocalyptic world. It's setting.
It's an alternate history.
It's an alternate history. It's a very unique setting of sort of World War One-ish, but with
dystopian.
mechs. Yeah, dystopian. And with mechanized, steampunky kind of looking machines. You're moving around the board. You're playing. You play a faction. You're given, which is actually kind of cool because you have two sides to your faction. You have the industry that your faction does and the actual faction abilities. Right. So you're given these two cards that combine up, and then you have a starting space on the board. You're going to spread out from there to gather resources and try to win points and win the game. By completing different objectives. Really, really cool implementation, and the combination of, do I go agriculture because my race is, or my faction is more adept at agriculture, or do I try to go some different direction? Really neat, and the way that the way you interact on the board with the resources that are produced is something that's really interesting to me, because you're not acquiring a hex and then all those resources are mine. I'm going to pull them over to my storehouse and now you can't have them. No, I'm going to sit on those resources. And if I need to use them, I can, and I'll spend them off. But if I choose not to use them and then here you come along and you knock me off that hex, those resources are yours now, and you can just spend them however you want. Or if I've acquired it and then moved on and now I only have workers there, my workers can't defend things. They can use the resources, but they can't defend. So now, hey, I need some iron. I'm going to run over there and send your little guy packing, and I'm going to take that iron from you. So it's that level of interaction and kind of strategy of how you sort of protect your resources that makes Scythe really, really cool to me.
I like the factions themselves because they did a really good job of making each faction unique, and not only what they're strongest at, be it agriculture, but also their movement across the board. They have one to where once you have built up their technology and their movement, they can travel through the water. They can just and usually you can't do that. So it gives you something that allows you to break the rule. There's another one that'll let you jump from home, what do you call it? The home grid, where everyone's starter home city. You jump from home city to home city, right? So it saves you time with having to travel all the way across the board. So it's really neat how they made each one unique to itself. That's what I really like about it.
And that's our number 14.
So at number 13, this one's already been mentioned, but I like it much more, and that's Tokaido. Going on a vacation, meandering through Japan, seeing the sights, painting pictures, staying at hotels, grabbing souvenirs. It's relaxing, it's beautiful in its simplicity, and it's just a great game all the way around. Tokaido.
Yeah, man. My number 13 is much different than Tokaido. If Tokaido is Zen Relaxation,
oh, come on, don't break it up.
Then Planet Steam is
You broke it up.
the brain burning commodity market tracking engine building game, right?
Yep.
Fantasy Flight Games gave us this, and it's one of those where I wasn't quite sure why or how we even acquired it, but okay.
Yeah,
well,
she picked it up somewhere.
I mean, you learn not to second guess the lady. It's a steampunk theme, and sometimes you're like, oh, okay, there's a lot of steampunk games on the market, but we put this on the table, and man, did I really, really enjoy it. Like I said, so you've got a track of, I think it's 4 different commodities. Their prices are going to fluctuate based on how the players are
manipulating that market,
are manipulating the market, or even just using the commodity. So you got to track that, and then you're building out different machineries to change some commodities into others and score points along the way. It just all works together really well, and it's one of those where it's a real mathy game. It's got that economy kind of factory line sort of thing going on, and I just really like it. What did I call it? The Planet Steam.
This one was, I think this is a hidden gem for Fantasy Flight, because, you know what their normal games are.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect them to publish this.
To publish this all. And when I saw it and I flipped it onto the back, I was like, whoa, this is completely different than what I'm used to. And the way they had those commodities set up to rise and fall and sell high and all that stuff, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be neat. Something completely different than the stodgy old normal economic games that we played in the past. So I love the steampunk theme. And the fact that they added an economy stock market element to it just blew my mind. It's a really good game. Way to go, Fantasy Flight. That's a good gem for you.
Yep, I agree. The whole prices of goods fluctuating based on whether they're being bought or sold thing is where that game is for me. I really enjoy that. We're on number 13, right? Number 13 is that game that that you love more than anybody else in your group. And it just, the mere thought of playing it brings a smile to your face. That's the Pursuit of Happiness. This one just keeps coming up the list. It's made it up to 13. Who knows where it might stop? We don't have a game. We have games on the shelf that I like better, obviously, because it's only 13. But we don't have one that I just think is more fun or more enjoyable to play. I love everything about this one. You're trying to, it's gamer life. You're trying to build the best life that you can, and, score some points before you die. I just really enjoy it, The Pursuit of Happiness.
He's right, He does love this one more than anybody else at the table.
Yep. It's not a bad game. Actually, I enjoy it. What's really cool, as he's talking about, you're going through your life, right? So you're, getting your job and starting a comic book collection and having a girlfriend, or three, and don't getting hate. A pet, or and as you're going through life, it adds stress to you, and eventually that stress is going to kill you. There's a couple of cards in there, like eating a salad or whatever, that's going to help. You may get one more turn out of it, basically, right. But in the end, it's perfect representation of just going through life and doing the best that you can. Now,
for me, it's kind of like Takedo, right? It's that stroll of a game type deal, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But when we played it, I made the point of saying
she wanted the zombie apocalypse.
That, there was
not zombie apocalypse, but get the measles. I mean,
something that was. But didn't you say there was like a deck of cards that we missed?
We thought nothing bad would ever happen to you. Apparently, we missed a whole.
The Kickstarter version came with a bunch of modules, right? Yeah. And when it does that, I don't typically throw everything in.
True.
I just pick 2 or 3 things and go with it. And then I don't get picked. I don't need it. I love it.
It is a good game. Those are our number 13s.
At number 12, another roll-to-hit gaming fan favorite, or table favorite, Shadows of Camelot. This is a long-time game we've all enjoyed. You're playing Knights of the Round Table, trying to go out into the lands to defend Camelot ultimately, but to go out into the lands and accomplish different quests around there and add white swords to the round table to fill that up and hopefully not have too many black swords that lose you the game. There could be a traitor among you, so you have to always be on the lookout for that. And as you're going around to different areas, the threats to Camelot are, of course, the black swords on the table, but also there are a number of catapults that are or war machines, siege engines, being added to the grounds outside the walls of Camelot. And if those reach a certain number, you automatically lose. While you're going out, you're trying to fight the Black Knight or go on the quest for Excalibur or the quest for the Holy Grail. You're using cards numbered 1 to 5 to create card pairs, card sets, much like poker hands. So to maybe in one where you have to fight off the Picts or the can't remember the Saxons. You have to get a straight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To fight the Black Knight, you have to get 2 pair. To things like that. As you're moving your knight out into these locations. You can only play 1 card at a time. While every turn, something bad is coming up. So either the Black Knight is getting stronger, the Grail is falling farther behind, or Excalibur is getting lost. And it's a game of managing that cooperatively to accomplish those goals and to save Camelot.
I think that's this game is one of those ones that we really enjoy because as a group we're beating the game. Yeah. And that's something that we like with Pandemic and this is another example of it, Battlestar Galactica. With all those, we're banding together to beat the game. And so it's a great way to do that. It's a great game to do that. Gosh, we played this the first time, over a decade ago. Yeah. And it's still one of our favorites.
My only negative for this game is I've always wanted to draw the traitor, and I've never
had Maybe I'll feed it to you next time. Yeah, I'll just stay quiet.
Cook it a little bit. All right, my number 12 is one of Chip and I's old favorites, and for a time it had its spot atop the BGG Top Games list, and that's going to be Puerto Rico.
Oh, yeah.
This was probably the first Euro game that I've ever played, and I still love it as much today as I did then. You're trading goods and building up your plantations and doing all of those Euro-y things, It was the first thing that gave me the idea of, hey, okay, let's plant this, grow this, sell this, and I just fell in love with that. It kind of set me on the path to being what I used to refer to as those damn dirty Eurogamers. So for me, it's still one of the best out there. We haven't played it in a while, but I would gladly play it any time. That's Puerto Rico.
It's definitely an evergreen, and I think it's a great introduction to Euro games because it gives you all those little nifty bits and pieces so that when you try others, it's easy to get into that genre. So
this game has definitely become board gaming history, right? So for new people out there into the hobby, this is a game that you may not see, you may not really have access to in the stores because I'm not sure that it's had a reprinting in a while. But if you get a chance to play it, man, it's a really good experience to have to see the real beginnings of the golden age of board gaming, what it was like, right? It is. It's just like you said, it's an evergreen title. Yep.
Well, for my number 12, not a Euro game. It is a Song of Ice and Fire tabletop miniatures game.
Wow.
Yes. Okay, so this is another one of those games where I had to have all of it. And so I love Song of Ice and Fire. So Game of Thrones, it's one of my favorite books. So when they came out with this game, I was like, okay, so this is going to be cool. It's more miniature and it's on the battlefield type thing. So let's give it a whirl. And so, of course, I'm playing the Starks and he's usually Lannister. And we were playing it out, but it was the political board that just kind of blew my mind. Because, Cersei doesn't go out into battle, and Tyrion doesn't unless he absolutely has to. But they were able to influence the battle that was happening out on the field based on the moves they made on the political track. And that is what made this game just completely unique, completely fresh, and my number 12, Song of Fire and Ice.
That part is what has intrigued me about the game. I haven't played it, but the idea of that sideboard being intrigued back and forth to affect the game on the tabletop is something really neat. I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, it works really well. It's really neat. You know, it's kind of a card-driven thing. It's got a little bit of that, like Shadespire has, where you're playing cards as you go along. This is a full-blown, tabletop miniature war game in 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Maybe an hour if you're playing, a long one or playing slow. So, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I'm shocked that it's that high on your list, though. So, that's going to be our number 12. And we're back with number 11, the last one on this list, and the last one before we hit the top 10 games. My number 11, we've already talked about it in this segment. It's new to the list from Garfield Games, Architects of the West Kingdom.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I am a sucker for worker placement, and most worker placement games I will tend to like better probably than the other folks in our group, but this one nails it. And, I know the next game is going to be completely different, but just based off of how much I love this, I'm instantly going to be backing Paladins. But Architects of the West Kingdom, she touched on it when she talked about it. It's really neat. I send a worker out there, and it's similar to Stone Age, right, to get me some wood. The next turn, I send a worker to that same spot. Now I've got 2 there, and I get 2 wood, and I can build that up to, get a bigger payout, bigger payout, and bigger payout. But other players can come in and basically arrest your guys and take them off to haul them off to jail, and now you've got to go break them out. And that would be annoying normally for me, that kind of mechanic, but I've really kind of gotten what I was going to get out of it. Granted, I could have gone there and gotten another big load the next time, but I start off with all the workers I'm ever going to have in front of me. I believe there's 20 of them, and when I place them out on the board, they're out there, so I need some to come back so that I can keep placing, or eventually I'm going to run out. So it kind of gives you a way to recycle that, and you can gain points on arresting your guys and taking them and selling them off to the jail or whatever you're doing. And, it's got all of the other Euro trappings where you're working to try to build more of the cathedral than everybody else to gain points. And she also touched on the reputation scale on the left-hand side. The more reputation, the easier it is to do certain things. But, there is a benefit to kind of being a scoundrel and having a lower reputation, because then you stop paying taxes, right? There's also a black market area where you can go buy some nifty stuff. And if you're too high up on the reputation, you can't go over there and buy the nifty stuff. But, the thieves sure as heck can, So all that works together pretty well. It's fairly thematic for a sprawling Euro game that it is, or worker placement game that it is. And I backed it, to be honest with you, because it was worker placement and because it has an art style that appeals to me, and the game that came in it was shocking. So I'm really pleased with how that one turned out. Architects of the West Kingdom, my number 11, and my only new to the list of this segment, and the last new to the list that you're going to see from me. So.
Oh, wow. Yep, excellent game. That's why it was on my list, too. My number 11, this is one that, Chip has confessed that he loves it. And that's Grand Austria Hotel.
I like it. Yeah.
Grand Austria Hotel is a Euro game to where you are you're gaining cards in order to there's people that are coming into your restaurant, and so you have to feed them, and then once you've fed them, then you can move them up to the rooms of your hotel. And your hotel is kind of puzzly, right? It's very Tetrisy. You're trying to get like one of your patrons that are, say, they're blue, where you're trying to get them into a blue room. And then once you get that section of blue rooms filled, well, then you get more victory points out of it. Then you also have this overlord of the emperor. He's expecting certain things from you. And if you don't meet those expectations,
he will smack you.
He smites you pretty hard. So it's keeping track of when you can feed them and when you can send them up to the room, and the timing of doing that at just the right moment to get the most victory points possible for each movement. And then you have servers that can help you, like your staff at the hotel and such, and they can kind of help you break the rules or give you a little bit of a benefit. Yep. There's just a lot of gears to this game, and it's all about timing. And I really enjoy playing that one, and that is Grand Austria Hotel.
The way you beat me in that game.
We're going to do this again?
I would have fared better wrestling a porcupine. I mean, seriously.
I would like to see that, though.
Yeah, it was bad. I think where I went wrong, the first time playing, I underestimated how badly the Emperor would punish you if you didn't cater to him.
Well, you think, it's Austria, right? It's not that bad a place, right? Well,
I mean,
he got on you.
He wasn't so bad to Mozart, but he wore me out. Yeah, and I think that's where it went wrong. I did like the game. It's another one of these really thinky ones. I think though, you kind of get locked into analysis paralysis.
You can
in some places, but it's cool. Good thing, unique thing.
But it's subject.
Number 11 is a game I tout this one's, or I carry this one's banner everywhere I go. Guys, if you haven't tried a little game by a tasty minstrel called Gold West, go try it. My number 11. This one, you're gold miners in the Wild West, and you're going out onto a map to place camps and gain resources, but you're bringing those resources into your hopper, which operates sort of on the Mancala mechanism before those resources will become available and score you points to be used in some way. It's a very, very kind of small footprints of a game. And it didn't get a lot of hype when it first came out, but there is a really great game in this box. It's and it's all like fundamental, just solid core mechanics, right? You've got map exploration, you've got a Mancala mechanism for your resource management, victory point scoring. There's a small area of the town that you can go and put a marker on to get some kind of bonus or things like that. Just all around, it really works well. And I think that in the age that we are in board games with so many titles coming out, it just got kind of lost in the shuffle. But this one is the definition of a hidden gem, and I suggest anybody to try it out. It's called Gold West by Tasty Minstrel.
The really cool thing about that one, because the board is very, very small, right? So when you're going out and you're building out your camps and exploring out into the map section, you get points at the end of the game for the longest chain of campsites that are all in your color. So, you're looking at not only your own gameplay, but, you want to cut off those chains. You want to block people, and not necessarily to their detriment. I mean, you're trying to make your chain go out as long as it can too, and you have a very small area to work with. You're looking at, upgrading your trains so that, they can go, whether it be silver or gold or copper, to get those across all the way to the end of the track at the top. And then, like you said, the general store to get you some things that you need in order to do better on the next turn. So there's a lot of, it's a tiny, for a board, it's only about this big, but there's a whole lot of game in just those 4 sections. Sure. And so, I agree with you. It's a very good game.
It left the impression on me of that I enjoyed it, but that I didn't really know what I was doing. And it's probably been 4 or 5 years since I've played it now, and I remember nothing about it other than that impression that it left, which I guess is a good thing that, it left something. But, I remember it being a neat little game. That's going to be the conclusion of our number 20s through 11. Check back next week for the top 10 so that you can say you were there when we told you what happened to the 10 best games in the world. So, roll to hit gaming.
Favorite.
Hyperbole. Use it. Go with it. Roll to hit gaming. I'm Lucas.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Chip. Make sure to subscribe and tell us what you think. Where did we go wrong? What did we get right? What are your favorites? We'll see you next time.